Practical course of magnetic particle testing. Part 1. Inspection with AC yoke. Dear participants, this is a video lesson related to practical application of magnetic particle testing. We are going to start with magnetic particle inspection of welds. We will show how to run inspection of welds using AC yoke PM5, manufactured by Kroppers, and supplemental inspection means produced by Helling. Inspection will be carried out in accordance to ISO 9934, parts 1 to 3, and ISO 17638. First technological procedure in magnetic particle testing is an equipment check. All equipment is to be in operating condition. All accessories and supplemental inspection means are to be available. All measuring items, lux meter, UV radiation meters, and calibration blocks are to be calibrated. All the calibration certificates are to be in being. To complete the task, we need a yoke magnet, magnetic particle indicator, roughness checks blocks, magnetic particle indicator sensitivity block.
Далее мы должны с вами понимать, что работоспособность дефектоскопа будем проверять еще на...
The weight plate to check yoke lifting force. Here, we are referring to ASTM E1444 and ISO 9934 Part 3. The second technological procedure is visual evaluation of a part to be inspected. Before the inspection process begins, the luminous density on work surface is to be checked. The minimal value for this parameter equals 500 lux. During visual inspection, we will test the surface for welding sputtering and surface contamination. In case of contaminated surface, the part is to be cleaned again. If the visible rough imperfection was revealed, the part is to be re-inspected visually.
Наличие поверок на используемые средства измерений, а именно на люксметр, на магнитометр, на средства измерения индикаций, то есть средства, входящие в набор видов.
After visual evaluation of the part, we need to check the expiry date of materials. It might be done later, but we are going to do it now, not to forget about it. Now we perform a roughness test with the use of roughness comparison plates. Using nails, we compare roughness of comparison plate and roughness of surface. The roughness of the plate closest to the surface is taken as a surface roughness. It is possible to use the profiler. Then we measure the residual magnetization of the part. In case of high residual magnetization, the part is to be demagnetized. A specific equipment to measure permanent and alternating magnetic fields is used for inspection. The normal part of magnetic field on edges of part have to be checked. If the field strength is less than 3 Gauss, it is possible to perform inspection. Now it is time to check the magnet lifting power and suspension sensitivity. To check the workability of the yoke, it is possible to use a part having a flaw already detected or demonstrate the lifting force of magnet via lifting the weight plate. To check the suspension sensitivity, it is possible to use sample type 1, as it is mentioned in ISO 9934, Part 2, or sample type 2, referring to the same standard, ISO 9934, Part 2. We will perform the yoke check using a sample with an imperfection once found. Inspection is carried out with the use of the black pier suspension. Luminous density while running the inspection is to be no less than 500 lux. Inspection is to be performed in applied field. Magnetization and suspension application should be carried out simultaneously. The indication of imperfection is now clearly visible on part surface, so the yoke is checked. In accordance to ISO 9934 Part 3 and ASTM E1444, the lifting power of the yoke is to be demonstrated. For an AC yoke, a plate of 4.5 kg weight is to be chosen, and the one of 23 kg for DC yoke. Disdains between poles of magnet have to be in range from 110 to 150 millimeters. So the plate is lifted. The yoke is checked. Now we will check the suspension sensitivity using ISO 9934 Part 2 Type 1 sample. Before particles are applied, it is necessary to cover the surface with contrast paint. In case of ISO 9934 Part 2 Type 2 sample is used, contrast paint is not required. On ISO 9934 Part 2 Type 1 sample, indications are revealed, so they could be compared with the sample passport.
На образце тип 1 по ГОСТ ISO 9934 мы видим четкие индикации, и после этого мы их сравниваем с паспортом на образец. Что касается индикации...
On ISO 9934 Part 2 Type 2 sample, we can see a linear indication. The longer is the line, the higher is the sensitivity. The sensitivity level is defined by customer. It is necessary to clean samples after the use. All preparation procedures are now finished, and it is possible to start an inspection. Before magnetization, we apply contrast paint on surface and leave the part for some time, till the paint cover becomes dry. The application of contrast paint is to be performed in protective coating. The magnet is to be removed from surface before paint is applied. To perform inspection, thin layer of paint is required. It is vital to maintain a high level of sensitivity to imperfections and reduce the drying time. Now we have to check if the paint is dry enough and run an inspection. In accordance with ISO 9934 Part 1 and ISO 17638, the tangential surface strength on magnetization surface is to be in the range from 20 to 60 ampere per centimeter. In our case, it equals 37 amperes per centimeter. It is enough for inspection.
Контроль осуществляется в приложенном поле. И мы уже с вами сразу можем увидеть индикацию. Когда увидели индикацию, целесообразно электромагнит развернуть перпендикулярно индикации и подержать еще недолгое время.
During an inspection, we have to detect a linear indication, a sign of an imperfection. We are going to continue our inspection. And now, one more indication is revealed.
Две четкие линейные индикации в сварном шве.
At the next step, we need to measure the distance from the initial point to where the indication is located and write results in inspection report.
Морфологических признаков, то есть координат начала и конца дефекта. Кладем линейку, устанавливаем точку нуля и определяем координаты. Занесли в протокол контроля, дальше мы проводим очистку. Очистку проводить тоже ветошью, однонаправленно.
After the inspection is completed, it is necessary to check residual magnetization, if required by customer, and perform demagnetization via lifting-powered electric magnet 50 centimeters higher from surface. After this process is completed, residual magnetization is to be checked again.
Поднять его на расстояние не менее 5 сантиметров от поверхности объекта. Проверяем остаточную намагниченность. Она стала равна 2 ампера на сантиметр, что допустимо. Надо отметить, что если мы контролируем с вами постоянным магнитом,
The same inspection scheme can be used for magnetic particle inspection of plates without weld and plates with hard bending. Part 2. Inspection with the use of magnetic bench. It is necessary to perform magnetization of the part with combined magnetization scheme, circular and longitudinal magnetization simultaneously. However, firstly, it is necessary to calculate magnetization current with the use of formula mentioned in ISO 9934 Part 1 or ASTME 709. Preparation for inspection with the use of magnetic bench is similar to the one we have already described, where a yoke is used for magnetization. It is necessary to measure the residual magnetization, lightning or luminous density, and measure surface roughness. It is important to test the equipment on a sample of the same material, having an imperfection once found, and evaluate the magnetic indicator sensitivity. We start with measurement of magnetic induction. It is less than 3 Gauss.
Измеряем нормальную составляющую, и здесь она оказывается 3 ампера на сантиметр. 3 ампера на сантиметр, то есть деталь можно считать размагниченной. Далее мы должны замерить освещенность на поверхности, чтобы понять достаточно.
Then it is necessary to evaluate surface roughness. We perform this operation with the use of roughness comparison blocks. The roughness is an acceptable range, and we apply the contrast paint on surface.
Напоминаю, красим мы с вами для того, чтобы создать лучший контраст. Много краски не надо. Здесь у меня уже баллончик, видимо, потихонечку заканчивается. Приходится так его сбалтывать, но контраст получим, поэтому я думаю, будет все хорошо. Замеряем освещенность на поверхности.
Before we start inspection, we measure luminous density on the part surface. It is more than 500 lux. Now we can start inspection. The part is fixed on magnetic bench. In modern devices, there is mechanization for pad rotation. It makes inspection faster and more comfortable.
В данном случае это не так, поэтому для полного цикла необходимо намагничивать с двух сторон, то есть перевернуть его. Мы сейчас с вами смотрим на проведение контроля, поэтому нет необходимости. Итак, я включаю циркулярный вид намагничивания и увеличиваю ток.
We start with circular magnetization and apply current of 2000 amperes to the part. The field intensity is 30 amperes per centimeter. It meets the requirements of ISO 19934 Part 1 and EN 10228 Part 1.
Можно контроль проводить и в приложенном, и в продольной, и циркулярной. Но мы проведем сейчас циркулярное намагничивание, потом продольное. Посмотрим, что будет. Итак, циркулярное намагничивание 2000 ампер. Появляются индикации.
During inspection in applied field, the linear indication is detected.
После проведения циркулярного намагничивания и выявления дефектов предлагаю провести продольное и после этого комбинированное намагничивание. Выключаю ток циркулярного намагничивания и включаю ток продольный.
After circular magnetization, it is required to run the longitudinal magnetization with the use of solenoid coil. Solenoid is on, and we need to measure the field induction.
Для большей уверенности в контроле можно замерить напряженность поля. Ну вот, она тут 20 ампер на сантиметр.
Now we can run inspection.
Намагничивание сейчас осуществляется соленоидом. Выявление разнонаправленных дефектов нужно одновременно.
It is possible to apply both types of magnetization simultaneously, the circular and longitudinal one. Imperfections of any direction can be revealed.
Таким образом, мы выявляем разнонаправленные дефекты. Я сейчас сниму контролируемое изделие, и мы с вами посмотрим, какие дефекты мы получили. Отключили ток, снова включили пуск и снимаем контролируемую деталь.
Part 3. Residual magnetization. Materials with high residual magnetization can be magnetized using residual field techniques. It can be proven on example of a screw from aviation industry. It should be taken into account that inspection in residual field is applied in case if it is difficult to perform inspection in applied field. For magnetization, we use the pulse current magnetization device. It is enough to make 2 pulses. After magnetization, we can move the magnetized part to inspection area with UV lamp and perform tests with use of fluorescence suspension. The suspension sensitivity is to be checked on ISO 9934 Part 2 Type 1 or ISO 9934 Part 2 Type 2 samples.
контролера.
Luminescence suspension has a higher contrast. It is very important for magnetic particle testing. During indication detection, UV radiation level is to be no less than 1000 microwatt per square centimeter. Visible light radiation would be less than 20 lux.
Ультрафиолетовая облученность. Она здесь у нас 4900 микроватт на сантиметр в квадрате. По стандарту достаточно 2000. Всегда используйте средства индивидуальной защиты. В презентациях было и очки обязательно, и черные перчатки. Это обязательно. Ну и теперь проводим контроль детали. Проводим нанесение суспензии и осмотр.
During inspection, we can see clear linear indication. Inspection with the use of permanent magnet. The permanent magnet is usually applied in case of lack of power supply in inspection zone, or if it is unavailable to apply current. We will perform inspection in applied field with the use of fluorescence suspension.
Контролем деталей электромагнитом, что показано было ранее на сварном шве. Постоянный магнит помещается на деталь. Когда мы видим, что индикации рядом, мы обозначаем эту индикацию как дефектную зону. 56512, когда мы с вами получили такую индикацию, целесообразно постоянный магнит поставить перпендикулярно магнитным дефектом и еще раз полить суспензию.
We can see clear indication in hard vending zone. It must be especially noted that it is necessary to place magnet on part slowly without falling and strikes. Conclusion. Our video lesson is over. It was shot in non-destructive testing laboratory of the Scientific and Educational Center Качество. Here, the techniques of testing with the use of yoke, magnetic bench, coil, and permanent magnet have been demonstrated. We hope to see you soon in our training center.
Ждем вас в нашем центре.